We got people behind the scenes up there. Nice. Is this it? Because we're over time already. I mean, we're supposed to start, I think. Aren't we supposed to start at 2:15? What is that? Yeah. Okay. Well. Oh. Okay. Maybe. Yeah. Just in case if people are trying to get in. I don't know. Okay. There's a couple more. They're trying to unlock some doors back there, so. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and start. We got a lot of stuff to cover, so we can jump in. I just need to look at my sessions here. I was all set up in the fellowship hall and had slides and stuff, so I have a digital copy, but it changed. All right. So everybody in here hates being on stage, I guess. No, I'm just kidding. So funny thing is at my church and kind of in our area, I have over the last several years, I find myself on stage quite a lot. And so I had said in a podcast, I had told somebody that was with me, I said, I'm actually much more comfortable behind the scenes, like running things and organizing, and that's kind of like my sweet spot. And they just shook their head like, nah, they didn't believe me. And so we do this big event. For us, it's big, but we do this big event every year, and it's a whole bunch of acting and drama and everything. And so, and I'm one of the main people in it throughout. And I told them, and they were just shocked. I said, when we first started that, I kind of started it, and I was behind the scenes. I wasn't on stage at all. I just ran everything backstage, and so that's kind of my sweet spot and what I like. But I find myself on stage a lot. So what I want to talk about a little bit is just some of the things that I've learned, and not that I'm an authority on it at all, but some of the things that I've learned and some of the things that might help somebody here. So the first thing is with sound. Now I have a handout in here, and so if you, and I didn't bring pens, but it's, I was looking at everybody's handout, and I'm the only one that makes you like work. I have fill in the blanks, and so so it looks like this right here has a guy peeking from behind the curtains. So if you wanted to follow along and fill that out, great. You don't have to, but so the very first blank there is you gotta have mics. So a few years ago, not very many years ago, our pastor came into our Sunday school, and we do ages 5 through 11, one room Sunday school. We have some other classes, but that's the one that I'm over, ages 5 through 11, and we now, I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, but we now have kind of a semi-permanent space that we do share a little bit, but we can set up and leave it. And so we do, we kind of go all out on decor, and we build stuff and everything. So we were doing a pirate theme. So this has probably been, I don't know, 5-6 years ago maybe. But we were doing a pirate theme, and so we always have a dynamic opening when the kids are coming in. We always want something happening, some action. So our pastor came up to visit, and he was bringing his nephew. His nephew, was his first time to Sunday school, graduated to our class. So he came up, and we just, it was epic. We had a dynamic opening. We were doing sword fights. We were on the chairs, stepping over kids and sword fighting and everything. And so it was about 2 minutes of just this crazy, music going. everything. And then everything, like, as is not typical when your pastor is sitting in on the class, everything went off just great and fantastic, and it went off without a hitch. But what he said afterward, I said, so I am always looking for feedback, not just positive feedback. I always want to know, like, what can we improve on? And so I was asking him, and he said, oh, it was good. Everything was great. He said, but you need mics. We can't hear you. So he said, the action was awesome. Everything you were doing was great, but we got to be able to hear you. And we do theme music a lot and stuff. So that's one thing. Even if maybe you don't feel like you have the budget for mics, there's all kinds of cheap ones that you can get. I don't know what kind this is, but it's a Shure. So this is more expensive body pack, but there's like Samsung is one that's pretty inexpensive. And of course, it depends on the dynamics of your classroom, but you've got to be understood. You've got to be heard. Man, I am going to take forever if I keep on elaborating, but I just want to say one more thing. I will often observe, like, the engagement of kids. And so I've had it where we have like 3 or 4 actors on stage at once doing some really cool stuff. And kids just be like, just not engaged. And that's a lot of investment to have that many people, in your Sunday school. And so what I found most of the time is not necessarily a mic issue, but is most of the time it's because they don't understand. So part of that would be mics if they can't hear you, but sometimes they just don't understand what you're talking about. They don't even get it. Kind of like Brother Julian just said, repent, and they don't know what repent means. And so so that's another thing with sound. Okay, set the tone with soundtracks. Now, I don't want to take too much time, but we, in our Sunday school, we are really big on soundtracks. So we use soundtracks, something like this, pretty much 100% of the time. So we are, and we do music and songs and all that kind of stuff too, but we use thematic tracks like this. Just like I said, 100% of the time we're using tracks throughout. And so there's different ones. Does anybody in here use soundtracks at all for your Sunday school? Okay? Yeah? All right. So not a whole lot. Now, again, I understand that some of this does not apply to everybody, and a lot of times I'll get a feel for the room and as far as who does what. But I will say this: even with if it's a smaller class, maybe you're a smaller church, or maybe you do your classes where they're more split up, so the classroom situation is smaller. Even if you have like just a little Bluetooth speaker and you run a soundtrack, if you're telling, and I don't know, all my soundtracks aren't showing up here, but if you're telling a Bible story, I don't know what this one is, so if you're telling a Bible story and you add some soundtrack, and then he let the stone go and Goliath fell, it adds a lot more, or can add a lot more to your story. And it's so easy. I mean, there's a few things we'll talk about, but it's so easy to do that it's so worth it. And again, in our Sunday school, we do that, and it's rather overwhelming. So sometimes new kids, they'll come up and they'll start crying. They'll be just like, oh, this is too much. Lights, music, action. And so, but it can add a lot. So set the tone with soundtracks. My goodness, time is flying. Okay, here we go. So functions and methods with QLab. I'll just cover this really quick. So if you want to write this, if you don't know what it is, QLab is what we use. And I'll just talk about concepts, and I am going to talk about concepts, but I just wanted to mention QLab because it's such a good program. Now, it's exclusively Apple, which is kind of unfortunate. It is exclusively Apple, but it's a awesome program, and here's the cool thing, it's free. They have a paid version too, but it's free, and you can do all kinds of stuff with the free version. And it's very intuitive, it's very easy to use. You can just drag and drop soundtracks into there. As far as soundtracks themselves, I subscribe to a service like Epidemic Sound is the one I use, but there's several of them that cost. I think there are some free ones. I think Sound Planet might be one. I'm sure if you Google it, you can find some free ones. I subscribe because I want to license it so I can use it in videos and things. So, but QLab essentially, if you do all the setup, now you can drag it in. My son runs it at our Sunday school, and he'll do stuff on the fly, drag in a cow, moo or whatever. So you can do stuff on the fly. But if you set it up in our big production that we do, we use QLab and we set the whole thing up, and it's just basically you're just hitting spacebar, you're just tapping spacebar, and everything flows how it's supposed to. This one will cut off while this one comes on. You can crossfade and everything, and it's not a major amount of work. Okay, so other software and equipment. Here's one that's really simple to use that you can have just on your phone is Go Button. Did I skip? Okay, no. So Go Button, and that's kind of a standalone, and it's I think it's iPhone or iPad only. And then there's Multiplay is one that's, I think it's kind of an open source. I haven't used it in a long time, but I think it's kind of an open source program, so depending on how techy you might be. And then also SFX from Timeline Theatrics. That's another one to check out. But again, QLab is by far the superior one. If your church uses Ableton, that can be made, you can use Ableton we use Ableton a lot to sync up things. You can have Ableton run sound, lights, and video, all kinds of stuff. Okay. It's funny, I have an outline, and I have what time I'm supposed to be done with each of my little segments here, and I am way over already, so we're going to have to blow through this somehow. All right, so tech. Is that where we're at? Tech. So how timers can keep you on track. All right, now just hear me out. This might sound a little bit too, sterile or professional for Sunday school, but we do segments. When I say segments, I'm talking about like dynamic opening, offering, Bible story, all these things, lesson, everything. So these are segments or building blocks. We use these segments in our Sunday school, and they have a time associated with them. And so a lot of times we just kind of, we would even say like, hey, this should take about 4 minutes, and just kind of fly by the seat of our pants, and maybe somebody, backstage would be like, hey, hurry up, time, So we, a few years ago, switched to using timers. Now we use ProPresenter to do that. Again, you can use ProPresenter for free. Now, if you are going to display for the audience, then you have to pay for it. And they just changed their subscription model. But if you just want to use it only for backstage, it's free. So the reason they put a watermark on the audience one if you're not paid for it, but you can download it and use it for free, and that's on Mac or PC. And we use the stage timer. Maybe I could show you an example really quick. And what this does is it gives us a countdown. And I apologize. I thought I was going to be over in the fellowship hall, so I had slides. So I don't have slides in here. So if I just do this here. Okay. So I'll have to walk down here so you guys can kind of see it. I don't know if I'm on video or not on camera, but okay, so this is kind of an example. So this has a lot of notes on it, so it's not the best example, but in fact, let me change this really quick, sorry. We'll change this to our last Sunday school one. Okay, there we go. Let's do that. There we go. Okay, so this is what our Sunday school one would typically look like. And so it shows like what's currently happening, and then it shows what's coming up next, and it has your time, and then there's some empty boxes there that have like, they have the place for a message, so you can send a message like, hey, hurry up, or hey, they just dismissed, because we're dependent on the sanctuary. And then it also shows a elapsed time for the whole Sunday school. And so we kind of know that we typically run about an hour, and so we can kind of look and say, oh man, maybe we should speed this up a little bit or whatever. So anyway, so timers are, for us, a huge help on keeping us on track. And with that, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Okay, so how we use backstage screens to track script and time. Again, I'm just telling you what we do. I know this is not for every Sunday school, but for our Sunday school, we have a screen probably about the size of the backstage screen there, maybe a little bit smaller. And we have that backstage, and we split it in half, and we have what you just saw, the timer running, and then we have the script, the current page of the script on there. And that's backstage, so when somebody's getting ready to go out this door, we have 2 doors on our backstage, they can look and they can see the screen, they can see the timer, and they know when to go. One of the things we fail on this often, but one of the things I like is to crash the next segment. And so that helps us to stay right on it and keep it flowing. Okay, and then so those are the fill in the blanks in the handout, is screens and script. So how we use backstage screens to track the script and time. And then ProPresenter, I already talked about this, but ProPresenter, there we go, can be used for free if it's just for the backstage. Okay, let's go into lights. So I'm trying to catch up. Okay, here we go. So lights, so set the stage with wash lights. Something that it took me a long time to learn. I didn't know this, but you're actually not supposed to use color lights on skin tone. On people, you're supposed to use white or soft, yellow. So set the stage with wash lights. There's so much that you can do with lighting. I mean, even at your house or whatever. But with decor, you can do some kind of cool decor, and I got that on my notes, and set it up, and it looks okay. It looks kind of nice, but then you put dramatic lighting on it, and it completely changes it, completely. And so if you let's say that we had a decorated backdrop up here on stage, and we didn't really have anything over here, but on the side we had some wash lights, shining some purple light over there or something like that, and that's where the bad guys are coming up or whatever. So you can do a lot with wash lights. So set the stage with wash lights. All right, can anybody quote this verse? And how shall they see without stage lights? You know that one, Brother Hodge? You read that? And how shall they see without stage lights? So you could have I've made this mistake before. You can have wash lights and it looks super cool, but then the people on stage can't be seen, and so then it goes back to the thing about the mics, if they can't understand. And so if they can't see you, then what's the point? And so stage lights, I have used everything, the best that I know of, the best are digital ellipsoidals, but they're very expensive. Ellipsoidals, ELIPSOIDAL, ellipsoidal. So digital ellipsoidals are the best. They're very expensive. We don't have digital ellipsoidals right now. We have just regular ones. But I have used just halogen lights from Home Depot and hung them up so that it shows some light. Those are 500 watts usually, and so it shines some light. 2 of them shining on the stage. All right, and then they can see. All right, effects lighting. That's the next fill in the blank. Effects lighting helps to build tension in the scene. I was going to show a really cool video of some effects lighting, but effects lighting is, can be movers and colors. Really movers, though. You can do a lot of just cool stuff with movers and strobes. Now, it doesn't have to be all fancy and what's called DMX controlled, if you're not familiar with lighting. it can be as simple as we've done this before, is, those strobe lights you buy at Party City, well, when they were open, but, you buy those strobe lights, and I've set them up on the front of the stage and ran, just a couple of them on cords all the way to wherever the media guy is with a power strip. And he just flips the power strip on, and they all start flashing, and you can do the crucifixion of Jesus or whatever the story is, and then turn them off. So effects lighting can help build that tension. And then with the careful, I have it in all caps because I just made a mistake with this very recently. With the careful use of fog, you can create a dramatic atmosphere. So we like to use fog a lot for all kinds of stuff, and I want to get better at directing it very specifically. Well, we did something last minute, and so I was like, oh, fog would be super cool for this scene. So I run up in the loft, grab a fog machine, run down, plug it in to get it warmed up, and then I'm like, where's the remote? And we have 2 fog machines and 2 remotes, and you can't tell which one's which. And so it's like, it's not this one. So I run back up in the loft. Well, it's on, so the fog just starts going. And we have a pretty decent-sized space, but it just filled it up. And the kids haven't gone over there yet. We do interactive Sunday school, so we go to a different room. We haven't gone over there yet, and they start seeing this fog come over. So one of our staff was like, don't breathe that. Don't breathe. That's the bad guys. So I had to open the door and run fans and everything. Okay, my goodness, we're out of time. Okay, so decor. Let's talk about decor. Oh, really quick. I'm sorry. Let's get into some specs really quick. So ideas for equipment to use. I mentioned stage lights, ellipsoidals already. You can get, the ellipsoidals are like those big long ones. I think there might be some in the sanctuary, I'm not sure. But you can get some that are like the ones in the sanctuary that look like a big barrel. Those are called can lights. And they don't change color, they just usually change intensity. And those are probably the cheapest ones you can get. You can get like what's called flat bars. Those are also in the sanctuary. They are shining kind of down. They're like this big, and they're like flat. And then, I don't know, I see some in here. But those are a couple. And then for software, the best that I know of, and this is probably controversial, it's called MA3. It's expensive. There's a free one called DPro. It's kind of open source. We use that for many years. There's LightKey, and there's QLC. Okay, moving on to decor. And this is the one I really wanted to spend the most time with, but we're running out of time quickly. So we are really big on themes. We're kind of, I guess, maybe known about before that a little bit. We build big themes. I'm in the process of building a Coliseum right now. It's 15 feet tall and 34 feet across. And then we do slides and build playgrounds that look like a cave and that kind of thing. So we do big themes, and it's really fun and it's cool and makes kids want to go to Sunday school. But I know everybody can't do that. So the reason behind themes at whatever level it is because I like for kids to, when they walk through a door, to step into another world. When I start a theme, I get into the door and I go like this. I get down on my knees and like, what are the kids going to see when they walk in? What's the first impression? Because that sets up the rest of Sunday school. That's how they're going to view it. And so that's why for themes. So step into another world using themes in your Sunday school. And then the next blank is immersive decor. So we like to completely immerse a room. And then I know I'm going fast. Weekly pop-up Sunday school. I wanted to talk about this really quick because I know that we are one of the very few people that have a semi-permanent spot. But it wasn't always that way. We used to set up every single week and take down every single week. And I know many people have to do that. But we still did epic themes. Our first time we did a pirate theme, we built a ship, and so it was about probably as long as this row, and maybe even a little bit bigger. But we at that time we were able to fit all the kids, and I think we had like 30 kids or something. We were able to fit all the kids into the ship, and we would do pirate ship and Navy ship. And so it actually had sides on it. We had a floor that we would lay down. It was plywood painted one way for the pirate ship, and we'd flip it over, and that was the other way for the Navy ship. We had these railings that we made, and we'd clamp them on, and they would be, one would be, I think one was kind of an orangish wood color, rustic, and that was the pirate ship. And then one was like silver, spray painted, whatever, and that was the Navy ship. So the kids would recognize, they would come in and they would know what ship they were getting onto, when they came in. So we would do that. We did many themes. We did another big boat. We did hot air balloons. We did an army theme. We did a spy theme, all with just completely surrounded decor. I mean, even the ceiling. In fact, we even would tack now. Got to get permission to do this, but we would tack blue plastic to the ceiling. We had this, the ceiling was covered, every single wall was covered, all of that, and it's a lot. Here's the secret: it's a lot of work. So a lot of times people ask me, "How do you do that in a space that's shared that you have to set up and take down every week?" Work. That's how. And that's the secret, is it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort, but it's so cool. So one really quick story with that is, we had a kid, or some people coming to Sunday school, and a dad was bringing his daughter into our Sunday school. This is years ago when we were setting up in the fellowship hall and taking down every week. And he comes in and he leaves kind of abruptly, and I thought something was wrong. I mean, he left his daughter there. But so I kind of went and chased him down. I was like, "Hey, is everything okay?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to get my wife. She's got to see this." And so it was really cool. Okay, we are out of time, but let me just cover this really quick. So scheduling. So this was just in the title that Brother Booker gave me, and so I don't know exactly what he meant. But I'm gonna hit a couple things with scheduling. I don't know if Okay, so keep your segments short as a general rule. I don't know why I don't have this on my thing here. So keep your segments short as a general rule. Our average segment is 2 minutes. I know that's pretty short, and we have a saying in Sunday school, 2 minutes is an eternity on stage. And so our average segments are 2 minutes, and we try to interrupt the previous segment. So somebody's out there, they're doing dynamic opening, they're in the middle of it, and then the music changes, and the next person comes in, like pushes them off stage and does the opening welcome. And so we try to keep it moving. Now the exceptions to that, our Bible stories are usually 8 to 12 minutes, and then altar service timer is 6 minutes. Obviously, you throw that out the window if it's going well. And on the converse side, we always push it to go at least that long because of the importance of altar. Oh man. Okay. Anticipate the potential. The potential engagement for segments to set time. So that's why with our Bible stories we have fully costumed actors and everything going on, special effects, and so the kids are engaged, and so that's why I feel like we can push those longer. Offering. And now there's times where you can do some really cool stuff with offering, but offering might not be as engaging. And so it's like you got 2 minutes, but make it the coolest 2 minutes you possibly can. All right, and then if you interrupt the segments like I just talked about, it can help with flow. And so if you crash the next segment so that it's like, I want the kids getting whiplash. They're looking around like, what's happening? Our backstage is backstage. It's behind the audience, and so a lot of times our kids you see somebody coming from the back. Okay, and then some methods behind casting. Again, I'm over time, but I'll just mention one thing that I kind of do sometimes, and this depends on your staffing. We'll double up a lot of people. And so one person, I have a spreadsheet and it'll show how many roles they have for this Sunday. And then sometimes we get it to where, oops, that's back to back. But sometimes a person is playing 7 different roles, and they might be acting in 5 of them, and they're staff for this and this, And so with the casting, also with if I have a theme bad guy or a theme good guy, and then they're having to double up in altar or lesson or something. sometimes I'll try, it doesn't always work this way, but I'll try to make the theme good guy be the teacher of the lesson instead of the theme bad guy, because even though we're wearing costumes, they know, oh, it's Brother John, and so he's a bad guy. So anyway, those are a few things. Man, I wanted to have a question and answers and everything, and we're 4 minutes over, but it really quick. Anybody have questions? It varies, but probably about 60. Yeah, and it fluctuates down and up both. Yeah, so probably about 60. Yes. No, I don't, but I'll tell you one that you could look at. They're really good. Is Worlds of Wow? Excuse me, Worlds of Wow. Worlds of Wow they do professional decor, and for churches like what we're doing, kind of, but a little bit more permanent space, daycares, that kind of thing. But they're incredible. But no, like I'm building the Coliseum right now, and I've been doing a bunch of research on the Coliseum, and it's incredible. It's an incredible feat that they did. But I just look stuff up and try to get ideas, and what's going to look cool to the kids. So, anything else? Yes. Yes, like the one in the sanctuary, Billboard Flex. Billboard Flex, and from what I found, I used to use Ecod Graphics out of Brooklyn, New York, and they're very good. They can print double-sided ones. If you're ever doing a mobile Sunday school, they can do double-sided ones, and Billboard Flex does not. But Billboard Flex is the cheapest by far. If you do billboard size, which I think is what's in the sanctuary right now with a 40 by 14, if you do billboard size, it's like, oh man, I want to say 57 cents a square foot or something. It's very cheap. But even if you do non-standard sizes, it's under $1 a foot. And if you go price them, like especially locally, it's going to be expensive. Most printers, of course you guys have LA, but most printers, probably even here, our town's way smaller, but even here probably are outsourcing those. Unless they're like a 3 foot or something. A lot of printers, before you get to really expensive ones, a lot of printers only do 5 feet, 60 inches by whatever the run is. Okay, we are over time. I think I'm in this room still for the next session. I am. Look at that. Thank you. I'm in here for the teens. Thank you, guys. I hope you got something out of all that. here we go again. I'm starting off a little bit over. So I'm running in the red. I'm in deficit. So effective teaching for teens. So at my church, I have the luxury of being not only the children's ministry director, but also the youth leader. So I kind of wear a lot of hats, like probably most everybody in this room. So I retired from being youth leader, and then my pastor said no. And so I got called back into it, and so I do youth along with the children's ministry. Okay, so I just need to play something really quick for you, if it will. Can you guys hear that? You guys know this song? Should have chosen a different one. Oh, we got a few minutes. I just saw a text. We can start at 3. Look at that. Woohoo! Back in the black. Anybody heard that song before? All right, a couple of people. Okay, so I couldn't make my point as much as I wanted to with that, but we'll get to it in a moment. Okay, so here we go. Effective teaching for teens. That handout is also in here. And again, I'm making everybody work, so it's got fill in the blanks and all that. So it looks like this with these cool teenagers on top. So, effective teaching for teens. Sister, you're late. All right, so what are we doing here? It's not Sunday school, but it's not adult church either. So, at one point in time, I'm not currently anymore the principal of our school, but at one point in time, I was children's ministry director, principal of our Christian school, and the youth leader. And so these kids just could not escape me. And so poor them. And there's still an element of that. You know, we have kids that we do 5 through 11, and so we have, Brother Baker, this is my last Sunday in Sunday school, because they're turning 12. I'm like, oh man, that's great. We'll see you Friday, because we have Friday night youth. And so then they see me, and then our youth age is 12 through whatever. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but it's just always been like that. So one thing is that you can't treat it. Now, I would venture to say that those that didn't go to Sunday school and they're like 18, 19, 20, if you did a Bible story like you do in Sunday school, they would probably love it. But if you go and you try to do that for the 12, 13-year-olds that just came out of Sunday school, they're like, no, this is dumb, this is not cool. So that's the first thing, is don't disregard the, quote, cool factor. Don't disregard the cool factor. And here's what I mean by that, is that you do have to have cool youth class, but it can't look like Sunday school, but it should have the same amount of effort that you put into it. It should have the same amount of effort. I just talked about in the last class, we do big decor and everything. We build these big, huge themes and all this, slides and everything. So with youth class, you need to put as much effort into that. And so I just, for example, and I know that some of this is going to apply to on Sundays, but I am going to talk about my main experience, and hopefully you can learn something from it. We do youth. In fact, I had to slip out and send a bunch of text messages out because they're doing it tonight while I'm gone. But we do youth typically, for the most part, every Friday, 7:30 to 10 o'clock, 7:30 p.m. to 10 o'clock. So I start basically at 5. I prep way before that. We have the whole year lined out and all of that. But I start at 5, like I'm driving to the church and getting ready and setting up, and I'm usually trying to get somebody to help me and set up this cool game over here and do this activity over here. And so like I said in the last session, I know some people are still in here, it takes work. That's the secret behind it, is it takes work. There's no magic to it, sorry. If that's what you came from this class. So it takes work. So don't disregard the cool factor. And then it's more than pizza and games. I know somebody probably wrote fun in there. It's more than pizza and games. I remember talking to a youth leader, this has been years ago, and he was asking me for some tips and tricks. And he said, he's like, how many do you have in your youth? And at the time, I think it was like 40 or something. And I said, oh, around 40. He's like, man, that's a lot of young people to have in your house and get pizza. And nothing wrong with that, but I was like, it's so different. That's not how we run youth. And I know some churches, they just, their youth night is full on church. They just have church. And that's fantastic. That's not what we do all the time. And so, but let's keep on going. Where am I at on time? 3:02. So I can push everything like 5 minutes, right? So I can get done it. Let me see what the text said. Sorry, hold on. What time am I supposed to be? I need to see what time he said to be done. Oh, it's WhatsApp. Where is it at? I do. Okay. So I can go to what? What time? 3:20. Woo! 18 minutes. Here we go. Okay, the setup. So, create the atmosphere for teens to walk into. Now, I failed to make my point great with that music. It was kind of cool and everything. But I just used this track, and that's why I wanted to use that song. I just used this track recently. But this might sound silly, and it's a very practical step. But just try it. It sounds silly, and the reason I know it sounds silly is I have staff that helps me, and I tell them, and invariably they just don't get it, and it's like they don't believe me. But you must, put a must over there. You must. Oh, it's right there. Okay, you must. What did I have a powerful impact? Whew. Oh, first impressions. There we go. First impressions have a powerful impact on how things will go. Okay, let me go back down. Let me go down to the bottom one. You must have blaring, upbeat music. You must have blaring. Now I know that wasn't really upbeat. I was trying to start it a certain way at our youth, but you must. Now, where I'm going with that, it sets the tone, and I guess maybe I just like music because in Sunday school we have nonstop tracks too. Yes, amen. But here's the thing: is like we'll do games, and I'm probably getting ahead of myself, but we'll do games and we'll split up. Like we'll split the youth. We have about 50-ish youth, and so we'll split, and then we'll rotate. So this group will go here, and they're going to do, some kind of Nerf war type thing. This group's over here, and they're doing like a dodgeball thing. This group's over here playing this other game in the dark, whatever. And then we'll rotate. They have a certain amount of time, and then it's like, okay, you're going there, you're going there, you're going. And so the thing is a lot of times that gets messy and confusing, and there's rules that you got to do and everything. But I say the key is when that new team walks into the fellowship hall for their game, that music should be blaring. It should be like, annoyingly. Walk in and then turn it down and go over the rules and everything. Because it sets up an impression. It sets up the first impression. And it makes a difference. It makes a huge difference. Because I took about a year off, and the youth leaders, and they did a good job, but they didn't do that. So when I came back, the youth were like blown away just in the first 5 minutes. They were like, "This is awesome." I just had blaring music going. Okay, I have a drinking problem. I can't get it in my mouth. Start with a bang. All right, so, and then the first blank there is don't wait. So start with a bang. The thing about don't wait is if you wait, because teenagers, especially the cool ones, they get their license and they're really cool. Teenagers, do we have teenagers in here? See, she's cool back there. Oh, man, all kinds of cool teenagers. So they get their license, and do you guys, you're not a teenager. And you guys probably have never done this, but in Washington, people show up late. And so if you wait, because you're like, man, we only got, we started, when I first became youth leader, we had 13 youth. And so, but if you have 50 and there's 5, it's small. If you have a youth of 10 and you have 5, that's not a super bad deal. But so if you wait, you're like, we're just going to wait for a few people to show up. You'd like to hang out anyway. Don't do it. Our start time is 7:30. It will be 8 before you know it. So you have to start. Don't wait. You got to start with a bang. And so, always have at least 2 games ready to go. And I designed this where, and again, I know this doesn't apply to maybe a Sunday school class where they kind of have to show up on time, but I'm just talking about my experiences. So if you have games ready to go, what I try to do is I try to have games that will work with a handful of people, right? So you don't need this big, huge group. Like we're not going to start our big dodgeball tournament at 7:30. Because I just know that not everybody's going to be there, and then it's gonna be kind of lame, when we get going. So I have 2 games like ready to go. Something like there's a game called I Need a Shoelace, and it's a game. It's simple. It's like no teams or anything. It's like I'll have them like, okay, I need 2 teams. Just split up. We're not picking teams. Split up, and then I Need a Shoelace game is where you're just calling like. It's a competition to see who can get all the stuff first. I need a shoelace. I need a comb. I need a penny. I need an 1980 penny. It's like a scavenger hunt, but it's right there. It's just digging through their purse or like, oh, I know there's a ball over there, So things like that where it just gets them moving. They're like, okay, yeah, we're having fun. We're going. And they're like, 5 minutes long, whatever. So start with a bang. Have at least 2 games ready to go. All right, 3 rules for a youth game. Be prepared. That's number 1. Be prepared. This sounds a lot like Sunday school, doesn't it? So be prepared. And I want to elaborate a little bit, but let's go through the blanks. So, and number 2 is explain quickly. Explain quickly, or at least engagingly. I made a video once that explained the rules to a really complex game. So we made a video. And the video took longer to make than the whole game was. All right, and then number 3, review ahead of time / be prepared. It's like the three rules of real estate: location, location, location. So be prepared, be prepared, be prepared. All right, so be prepared and the review ahead of time. I want to talk about that a little bit. It's kind of like an object lesson. Brother Booker always talks about, practice it ahead of time, do it ahead of time. So with games, I have found that a lot of times you can find a game somewhere, online. There's youth games all over, right? And it's like, this is going to be epic. This is so cool. And then when you get right down to it, you're like, okay, so how are they going to step over here? And you get into the details and the minutia of it, and it doesn't really work. And you're figuring it out live. All the teenagers are there, and they're like, this is dumb. Let's just go play dodgeball. And so So be prepared and try to run. If you can't run through it physically, because sometimes you can't, you don't have enough people or whatever, but try to, like, I always try to think through all of the steps. Like, what's going to actually happen? What are they going to actually do? What does this really look like? And then what do I need for this? Oh, man, I need some tape. Oh, yeah, I don't know if I have this in here. I meant to put it in here, but I don't think I did. Blue tape, blue painter's tape. Just when you leave here, just go buy a thing of it. You're just going to need blue painter's tape because you can just do so much with it. Not duct tape. It's to mark stuff. It's to mark, like, this is the starting line, or this is the hopscotch relay game that you got to play, and you got to tape your squares out, or this is the the boundary box for the goal, or whatever. So blue tape. Okay, where are we at? The art of the lesson. So the art of the lesson. I'm already bored. So how to actually connect and make a difference. So number one is know your stuff. And this kind of is like with the game, is know what you are going to talk about. I have made the mistake. I mentioned in the last session that I end up, because it was called Behind the Scenes, I end up being on stage just all a bunch. And it's not my natural habitat. I am a behind the scenes guy. But people don't believe me that know me because I'm on stage so much and I'm on video and different things. But the key is, my point with that is that I have gotten to the place that I can go on the fly. It's not good. Like, I've been asked to teach some lessons at our chapel for our Christian school. And I could show up and go on the fly, and it might be okay, because I have the experience. I've been doing it for 100 years, as my kids would say. And so I've been doing it a long time, and I have the experience. But the thing is that only takes you so far, and then if you combine the experience and the know-how with being prepared, then you can make a huge difference. You can make a huge impact. So know your stuff. Don't be figuring it out on stage. All right. Create interaction in your lesson. We're doing that right now. For those of you that are doing the blank, Brother Julian, I did not see your pen. Shame on you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm talking about filling in the blanks. So you do interaction, and that's, I think, on probably the most base level, is you could have, your teens fill out an outline or something for your lesson. We don't do that very often at all, because the way that we are operating, the interactive part is was somebody giggling, or was that a sneeze? So the way that we interact, like a lot of times I'll almost have the teens do the lesson. We'll do split discussions, and I'll give them the topics. And then they come back in, and it's like, we'll have a spokesperson, they'll do kind of a brief little deal, and then I'll talk about it. They just talked about it in their groups, and so they kind of have this, like, it's already got their mind going in that direction. And another thing that's really cool, I don't do this all the time, but another thing that's really cool is you can theme your whole night. It takes a lot of work, and you don't want it to be like Sunday school, but you can theme your whole night to what tracks you're playing, to the game, maybe has a point. 20-year-olds think that's dumb, but 13, 14-year-olds, they kind of get with it. So anyway, so you can theme your whole night. Where are we at? Okay, 3:14. Okay, and then the last one on art of the lesson. If you're not authentic, teens will see right through you. So let's go back up to the very top. Don't forget the cool factor. Okay, I'm 40-something. So if I dress like this just like all the time, because I dress for work and it's just easy and stuff, but I do own jeans and hoodies and things. But if I don't wear sweatpants in public ever. I don't think I even own a pair of sweatpants. But let's just say that I show up in sweatpants and, with the, Georgetown or something, I don't know. I show up in sweatpants and baggy, t-shirt, long sleeve t-shirt, and my hat on backwards or whatever because I want to fit in with the young people. I mean, brother, you might be able to get away with it. I don't know, but I can't get away with that because if I tried to do that, it would look stupid. So just be authentic. Be who you are. Be yourself. Kids will love you for who you are. Teens will love you for who you are. And so be authentic. Don't try to be fake. And here's the other thing is don't try to be like, I'm a Bible scholar. Don't get up there and if you're not, I mean, if you are, great, but don't get up there and like, I am the authority in all things, and I'm going to teach you teenagers. Be authentic. We just recently had Brother Bart Adkins last Sunday at our church, and it was funny. He told a story about being pulled over and stuff, and he was mad at the police officer, and he had a right to be, and he said he peeled out, and he stopped, and he's like, oh, don't tell me you've never wanted to do that. And so he was being authentic, and so I think that sometimes, I've been guilty of it, sometimes we can be like, well, I gotta be perfect, and I can't let anybody know that I make mistakes. Let me give you a little secret. They already know. And they probably know what ones. Okay, let's rewind really quick. So this is back at the beginning. It's on the bottom, but it's at the beginning before all of this stuff. Start with anybody guess what that means? Huh? I heard somebody say something. Did you say band? Bang. Oh, yeah, no, that's very good, but I'm talking about the fill in the blank on the bottom, the rewind. So what you need to start with. But you're right, start with a bang, but start with a plan. Start with a plan. Okay, now, what that plan looks like, man, I'm losing my voice. What that plan looks like for us, for our youth ministry, this doesn't apply to everybody, and I hope that you can take a lot of these things that I'm talking about for Friday night and apply them to a Sunday school class if that's why you're here. But what that plan looks like for me is I plan out the entire year. Now, not in detail, but I plan out the entire year of what we're going to do. There's various conferences and rallies and stuff so we got to plan around all those. But we have kind of a general, I could probably pull it up, but we have a general format. I think I'll just do it from memory. But we have something we call Compass. And Compass, typically, my pastor will be there. But Compass is not designed for guests. Guests have came, and it's fine. But we don't do games at Compass. And it's not a youth service. Compass starts with a meal. And so we have various people that help plan it and prep it. And so it starts with a meal, just hanging out, and it's longer than what we typically do for a meal. It's probably about 30 minutes. So it starts with a meal, and then it goes into prayer usually, not always, but it goes into prayer. We go into the sanctuary, and we pray, not for a long time, 10 minutes or something. And then pastor talks to the youth. And it's not a youth service, but it's more like a youth service, but it's not a youth service. And a lot of times he'll do handouts, and he's just talking about pretty specific things. Recently, he talked about making money. I mean, how spiritual is that? But he's talking about about specific things so our youth can grow. And then we have youth services. We have youth service that are just our youth only. We have youth rallies that we do with some churches, around in our fellowship. But we do youth services. We just did one, in fact, last Friday. We just did a youth service. So we do youth services. And it's full on. Back a long time ago we did this. We started doing them. And we were like, oh, let's do it casual. Let's be cool, and that's fine. I had no problem with that. But we try to make it like real service, right? Real youth service. And most of our singers or a lot of our singers and musicians in church, in big church, as we'd say in Sunday school, are the same people. So my son plays the piano. Well, he plays like everything, but he's a mean piano player. And so a lot of the youth are doing that. One young man that's in our youth preaches too, and so sometimes he'll preach. But we have the main difference is in our church we have pre-service prayer, and that's before it's like 20 minutes before service starts. With youth service, we still start at 7:30 because I think it just gets I think nobody would show up anyway, and so 7:30, and then we do prayer, and we go into the service, and then we also typically have a longer song service. Okay, 3:20. My goodness, time flies. Okay, really quick, and then I just wanted to give you these things. Then the other thing we do, like what they're doing tonight, is called Next Level, NX Level. So Next Level is an extreme game night. And so extreme game night means, it does not mean chess or checkers or ping pong. Extreme game night is you better wear your running shoes. It's usually, I usually, here's another thing really quick. With games, you can find all kinds of games on websites and everything. I almost always customize them. I customize them like a lot. I usually what I find on the website as just a little kickoff point, and then customize the games. Okay, we're out of time. The other one we do is, two other ones we do is Breakout. Breakout is just an off-site youth night, and it could be eating out is one we do, but it could be at the park, it could be going to play volleyball somewhere or something like that. And then, I said volleyball. You guys over here have sunny weather. You play volleyball. In Washington, we play volleyball. It's an indoor volleyball, but it's with walls. Okay, and then we do Thrive. Thrive is kind of like, it's a youth night at the church, 7:30 to 10, and it's got a mix of games, activities, a lesson, food, all of that. Okay, the last one. This is almost as key as the blaring music. Actually, it's probably more key. Run out of time before you run out of content. I do this in Sunday school too. Run out of time before you run out of content. It's way better to have like, oh man, we didn't get to play those 3 games, and you get to play them next time, than it is to, be like out of content. Like, what are we going to do for the next hour? So, okay, everybody's yawning, so we're done. It's 3:22, and we're over time, and I think I'm still in this room. Look at that. I don't have to walk anywhere. So, I'm in the main section. Okay, I do got to walk. All right. Thank you. Hopefully you guys got something out of that. We're going to go in the sanctuary and do boot camp.
Hello? Yeah! Wow! I got it! I'm just playing. Oh, wow, this is really loud. Am I good? Are you going to make me sound cool? All right. This is story time. If you are not wanting to be in a storytelling class, then you're in the wrong place. I do have a handout for this session. I don't know what page it is in your massive handout of resources, but you are welcome to peruse. How does a panda cook? How does a panda cook? With a pan, duh. Ah. I wrote that like 2 days ago. That was a good one. Know how a panda will kill you, right? With his bare hands. Oh, that was eye roll worthy? Okay. Wow. You know it's a really good joke when they don't laugh, but they go, All right. What is my time frame? Somebody's got to know better than me. I'm the most unorganized person on the planet. All right. 25. Oh, we're late. Are we late? Oh, wait, I have 5 minutes, right? Okay, so I'm going until I'm done. Ha 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 ha. No, I'm just kidding. All right, this is creative storytelling. Is this boring? So is it? Okay, not yet, he said. Okay, so I'll give you 5 minutes. All right. So in your handout, I have done the favor of giving you blank spaces so that you have to pay attention and write down the answers. No, I'm just playing. Very first part of our handout, I'm going to make a pronouncement that is pretty bold, but I do believe that it is true. Story is one of God's greatest methods of teaching. Romans chapter 15, verse number 4, Apostle Paul wrote, "For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the Scriptures might have hope." Okay, so everything that was written for as a teaching tool to us. Now, I want us to understand something. I did a little dive into the literary styles of the Old Testament, and I learned that 40% of the Old Testament is written as narrative or stories. So the Bible in its entirety is written into three main types of literary styles, okay? You've got narrative, which is stories. That makes up 43% of the entire Bible, stories. That's a big deal, really big deal. Nearly half of the entire Bible is a story or stories. 33% of the Bible is written as poetry. You find that in the prophets, a lot of poetic language used in the prophets and in the Psalms, different parts of poetry throughout the Bible. And then the other 24% is written as a literary style called prose discourse. So in other words, this isn't necessarily outlining stories, it's not necessarily poetic, but it's very logical. It's producing laws, instructions, letters from, we could look at the epistles as prose discourse, letters presented to change the thinking or behavior of the reader. And so while a single book of the Bible may have a main literary style, the other styles can be woven throughout the book. So for example, the book of Daniel is, what do you think the literary style for Daniel is? Narrative, poetry, or prose discourse? Narrative. The book of Daniel is a narrative, but there is a lot of poetry in there with the prophetics and what have you. Another example would be that Exodus is narrative, but there's a lot of prose discourse in there as well, a lot of laws and commandments and what have you, right? And so, nearly half of the Bible is written to tell a specific or an overarching story, all right? Are you bored? Is this boring? No, it is boring, a little bit boring. But we're going to get to the fun stuff here in a second. Right now I'm Professor Hodge. No. There are 3 kinds of narrative in the Bible, all right? So nearly half of the Bible is a narrative. There's 3 kinds of narrative in the Bible. There is historic, there is biographic, and there are parables or stories that aren't true or aren't real life, historical or biographical characters or historical events, but they do teach a story, right? A lesson. It's a story to teach a lesson. So there are also non-biblical stories that we may use in Sunday school, right? How many times do you use a story that's not found in the Bible to teach a lesson? Oftentimes you do it through skits or puppets, whatever it may be. But there's also other non-biblical stories that we could use to teach. We could use stories from history. We could use stories from our own testimonies or other people in our life that we've heard their testimony, and it's a great story we're going to teach and admonish children from that. Or they could be original stories or parables that we wrote of our own accord that aren't real, that aren't true, that never really happened, but they're teaching something. So whether it's straight from the Bible or not, the important part of story is don't be boring. Don't be boring when you're being a storyteller. Storytelling is too important. Remember, nearly half the Bible was written as narrative. So storytelling is far too important to not be engaging, okay? And so creative. This session is talking about creative storytelling. I want to define what creative means. Creative means relating to or involving the imagination or original ideas, especially in the production of an artistic work. And so storytelling certainly is an art form. It is an art, okay? And so you may not feel like you're very creative as a storyteller. You might not feel like you're very good at the art of storytelling. But I'm going to give you some tips and practical instruction on how you can kind of talk yourself into being a better storyteller, give you some tools. And so sometimes it can be original or outside of the box methods of teaching a story. But when it comes to teaching the Bible, especially Bible stories, we are telling the same stories over and over and over and over again. And so the goal here necessarily is not originality, okay? All right, I want you to think of this. Creative does not mean original. Creative means that I am using my imagination and I'm engaging the children to use their imagination. I'm bringing it to life. I'm making it real to them. I'm engaging with them. It's not boring, okay? And so the key for storytelling in children's ministry is not necessarily originality. Oh, I just said that. But imagination. Check that out. It's like I wrote a handout or something. You're not expected to do something new, okay? I think sometimes, especially storytellers that like to be outside of the box storytellers, they're always looking for like the little nuance in the story they never saw before so they could like approach it from a different angle, you know? I think I told the story of David and Goliath from the perspective of a rock, of the stone that was used. It was like, oh, wee, in your face, Goliath, quite literally. You know, so you can look for those different approaches and be creative as far as original is concerned, but before too long, you're going to kind of miss the beauty of the story and the lesson found in the story in the name of being original. And so the point isn't saying something new every time, but you are never permitted to be boring, okay? So even if it's something that they've heard 1,000 times before, there's still ways that we can make it engaging and captivate their attention. Okay, so just a few tips on storytelling. You can experiment with props, and I'm not going to get too deep into this. As you can see, I don't have a lot of props at my disposal right now. Actually, in my brain, the way my brain works, I have a lot of props to work with right now. That trash can is just calling my name right now. But but you can experiment with props, right? And I think that it's great to have a prop closet, all right? I think every church has a closet that has just been the bane of their existence. And they know they have it, but they don't know where it's at. It's in the closet somewhere, but they don't know. They have a sword somewhere in that closet, but they don't know where it's at. And am I relating to anybody? And sometimes we are afraid to utilize props because we just don't want to go look for it. We're tired of buying it. Like, man, we've bought the same thing 5 times. We've got to have it somewhere. It's on the property somewhere. And so, yeah, having props is great, but if you're going to have props, you have to have a place to store the props. And if you're going to have a place to store the props, I've learned something very, very practical, like very hard. It's been hard to learn this. But any empty space, especially spaces that have doors, like cabinets or closets, become catch-alls. Like, if there's not something there, something will be put there. And before too long, you just have a mound of everything. And it's not going to have any rhyme or reason. And so if you're going to be a prop-driven storyteller, you better be really organized with your props because you're going to be constantly stressing, looking for the things that you need to tell the story. Another thing you could have an experiment with is costumes. Man, we'll use the same robe for a billion different characters. If you have one Bible robe, garb, we've done things. You just use a sheet and just try to make it work. A sheet and a rope, and just kind of put it over your head like a little Red Riding Hood or something. But you could experiment with costumes. You could experiment with sets. You could say, man, to be a good storyteller, you have to have all the sound effects. And sound effects do help with story. So if you have a techie person, if you have somebody running a Bluetooth speaker or something in your classroom or a sound system in your children's church, utilize the sound effects. As if you're tasked with being the Bible story teacher, work with somebody on your team to get some effects that would be appropriate, or give them suggestions. Hey, I need you to cue up the sound of a storm, or I need you to cue up an explosion. I need you to cue up, and maybe we can go through the story and where things are coming up so that you can be ready to click the button and hit it at the right time. So sound effects are great for adding to the not the originality, but the creativity of storytelling. Another fun creative tool you can use in storytelling is a thing called personification. Personification is when you realize that a character does not have to be a human. You make anything a person, all right? So, for example, the rock, the stone, in David and Goliath. The stone is not a character in the story. It's an object used, but you personify it, and you could say, oh, well, you picked up little me. I've been sitting in this river forever. Wow, I can't believe I'm going to destroy the giant. Little me. Whatever, you kind of give it a personality, give it a character, and you've approached that story from a completely different angle. Anything can be personified for an incredible story. Who's here ever read The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein? The Giving Tree. That's a great book, isn't it? This is such a sad book. But the tree is about this boy who comes to the tree and he finds like joy and he's climbing the tree and all this stuff. But it follows the boy's life as he grows up, and the tree is giving of itself to this boy based off of what he needs in his life, whether it's shelter or whether it's wood or whether it's fruit or whatever. At the end of the book, the boy is an old man sitting on the stump of the tree because the tree just gave all of itself for the life of this boy. And it's a really sad book. But who would look at a tree and say, man, that would be a great character for a story? Well, if you're creative, you could personify it and figure it out. So there's a lot of opportunities in even Bible stories to personify things, right? You could personify the stone from David and Goliath. You could personify one of the lions in Daniel and the lion's den. It's like, oh boy, the stone's rolling up. I can't wait. My stomach's grumbly. I can't wait. Plop. Ooh, thank you, Jesus, for this food that I'm about to partake of. I want to eat him. Let me eat him. You could personify anything, right? And so that's just a tip. So wisdom, even in the book of Proverbs, is personified as a person, right? And so while we could dive deep on all of these things, I really want to give some tips and techniques to help you better be a better storyteller without the use of external resources. So if you don't have the sound effects, if you don't have the costumes, if you don't have the prop closet, if you don't have I think it's the costumes, whatever. I don't even know what else I put. The sets, if you don't have a big set or anything that you're working with, and you want to be a better storyteller, I want you to think of yourself like I am out in the woods around a campfire, and I don't have a prop closet, I don't have a sound system, I don't have a costume, but they want a story. Can I, at that fire, capture the attention of the audience and tell a story? You absolutely can. And I think fire kind of helps because there's something mysterious and captivating about a fire. All right. So, kids don't, let me help you. Kids don't need complex. All right? As adults, we feel the pressure of presenting a complex storyline with plot twists and unexpected endings. But children love once upon a time. You know, kids can handle that. They can handle once upon a time. They can handle a simple storyline with a moral conflict of some sort, you know, a good guy and a bad guy and a good ending. You know, it doesn't have to be this really complex thing. So don't put too much pressure on yourself. But there are five, in my mind, there are 5 essential tools to storytell effectively and not be boring. All right? So I'm going to give you 5 tools. And it's not a set, it's not a costume, it's not sound effects, it's not any of those things, lighting, any of those things. I'm going to give you 5 tools to be a better storyteller without all those external resources. Are you guys ready? Okay. Use your brain. Okay, let me finish the handout. Okay. Use your brain for the facts and figures, but tell the story from your heart. Okay. You have to know the story, right? You got to know the facts, you got to know the figures, you got to know the character. But when you're a good storyteller, you're not just going to tell the story and just recite facts and just teach them the character as if, you know, they're dead and they don't mean anything. But when you can learn to tell a story as if that story has changed you, if you can tell that story as if, though they've been dead for thousands of years, this character still has something to say. There's impact to this story. This is kind of where we could see that this is the spiritual part of telling the story. We're not just teaching kids stories like it's some history class, but this is the spiritual part. I want to pour my heart out in this story. I want to show the heart of God through this story, and I want to connect the kids to have an experience with God through this story, okay? So it's one thing to know a story. It's another thing altogether to believe a story. My grandpa, one time when I was a young person, he asked me very casually, very flippantly, he said, "Tyler, do you really believe that a guy was swallowed by a fish for 3 days and lived to tell about it?" And I'm like, "Well, last I checked, that wasn't a parable, so yeah, I really do believe that happened." He's like, "That's just crazy to me. I can't believe that." See, he knows the story, but he doesn't believe it. Right? And if we want to really teach through story to be able to reach the heart of the children, is we have to not just know the story, but we have to believe the story, and it has to have some type of an impact on our life. So to put yourself in that person's shoes, that's how you share the heart of the story, right? I want you to put yourself in that person's shoes. I want you to feel the emotion of the story. And so this is one thing that a good storyteller needs to learn how to do, is to learn how to evoke a broad spectrum of emotions, all right? Learn how to evoke fear. Learn how to express sorrow, like genuine sorrow, right? Or loneliness. What's the disposition of someone that's lonely? Or what does it feel like to be betrayed? I'm just kidding. Maybe if you're a clown a little bit. depends on the character too, right? I love clowns. Actually, that was kind of like my first start into big children's ministry, was clowning, right? And I loved being a clown because it was just, everything was over the top. So if you were sad, you weren't just like sad, but you were like sad, right? Or if you were happy, you weren't just like happy, but you're like manic happy. Like if there's like manic depression, there's manic joy, right? If you're a clown. And everything's over the top. So you could apply some of that to storytelling. You could overemphasize things just for the sake of being able to convey that emotion, right? There is something to say about, if you're trying to be serious with a story, if you take it too far over the top, then you kind of are seen as a clown when you're wanting to be taken a little bit more seriously. And so it's learning that balance, right? Learning that balance is really important. But expressing joy, expressing faith through your emotions. So not just the facts you've learned, but try to put yourself in that person's shoes, and as you're telling the story, convey the emotions that they should feel when hearing the story. This is what I want everybody to do real quick. I want you to take your head, okay, and I want you to drop it down to your chest. Your chin should be touching your chest right there. There you go. All right? I know this is a little silly. But right now, your brain is as close to your heart as it can get. I want you to build a bridge between your brain and your heart, okay? Don't have a brain fart, but from your brain to your heart, I want you to be able to build a bridge between what you know and how it should feel when you tell the story, okay? You're good. Pick up your chin. Build it. Just think of it. When you're telling a story, if you feel like you're being a little boring, it's probably because you're just using your brain. Build a bridge between your brain and your heart, and it's important for you to know the facts. It's important for you to know the figures, but share the heart of the story when you tell the story. Okay. Then going on. Here we go. Use your God-given instrument. All right? All of you guys have a God-given instrument. If you don't have a prop closet, you have a God-given props. You have God-given props. If you don't have a stage, you have a God-given stage. Okay? So use your God-given instrument, props, and stage. What are those, Brother Hodge? I'm glad you asked. Your God-given instrument is your voice. Your God-given props is your body. Your God-given stage is your space. Okay? Let's tackle this down. These are God-given. Okay? That means that we have them everywhere we go. All right? It's not dependent on a set. It's not dependent on a team. It's not dependent on any other outside resources. We have them everywhere. And one thing that I've learned with myself and helping others to try to convey some emotion and be a little bit more creative in storytelling and what have you is one of the greatest hindrances against us, working against us, fully utilizing these tools is our mind. Okay? So what do? Here's the 5 tools for effective storytelling. Use your brain for figures and facts, but tell the story from your heart. Then you got to use your God-given instrument, props, stage, voice, body, space. And the biggest thing that's going to hinder us from doing all of those things is our mind. All right? And so I'm going to sound a little new agey here for a second, but you'll have to appreciate it for what it is. And if you have a hard time being expressive with your voice, if you have a hard time being expressive in your body, learn to disassociate. Okay? That means you've got to get out of your head. Get out of your head. All right? Somebody's saying, I can't do that. Don't say I can't do that. Instead, say, my voice can do that. And then you grab a hold of your voice and make it do what you want it to do. It's not a matter of can't. It's a matter of you don't know how to play the instrument. It's what do you need to do in order to play the instrument? You got to grab a possession of it and practice. And so a lot of times people don't know how to do it because they've never tried it. They can't get out of their head. All right? And so We're going to have a little exercise. This is a workshop. You're supposed to have some hands-on stuff anyway, right? All right. I want you guys to grab your voice, and we're going to make it sound like cowboys and cowgirls, okay? All right? Disassociate. It's your voice, but it's not you, okay? It's a tool that God has given you to use, and it will do what you tell it to do, all right? So get out of your head, grab a hold of your voice, and we're going to say, howdy, partner. Oh, here we go. That's what I'm talking about right there. There's a little boy back in the playground over here. He had climbed up in a tree, you see, and he didn't know how to get down. He done dropped his pistol when he climbed through the window. Man, he put himself in a bad spot. Yes, he did. Yes, sir, Bob. Right? All right? Or we could take a grab your voice. Tell it to do what you want it to do. So we say, hi, matey. Some of you guys can't do it. Taking your voice out of your brain. You're stuck. You're stuck in your brain. All right? We got to learn to get out of our head. You can do most things if you would just let yourself. Okay. Let me help you. All right? Take inventory of your prop closet when telling the story and use them where it makes sense. I don't have a prop closet. I'm talking about your God-given prop closet, which is your body, right? You have 2 eyes. You have 1 mouth. You have 1 face with a whole bunch of nerves and muscles in it, right? You got 10 fingers. You got 2 legs, 2 feet, 206 bones, 600 muscles, 100,000 hairs, and 7 trillion nerves. Okay? So what does this mean? I've got a pretty extensive prop closet right here. I'm going to learn how to express myself with my body. It's called body language, right? So if you're telling a story, don't just use English. Use your body language. It's a God-given prop closet, all right? Be expressive with your face. I want you guys just to do that. Stretch your face out like that. Just like bite your lip. There you go. Brother Drew's really good at it. Oh, I just licked the microphone. I can't do that. Yes, you can. Your prop closet is just locked up in your head. You gotta unlock that prop closet. Get out of your brain. Get out of your mind. You can do it. Get out of your mind. Take me. Right. Okay. Movement. If you're just standing there telling a story, once upon a time, in a land far, far away, lived a sleepy storyteller, and he hypnotized an entire workshop of people. See, I can't not do it. I'm trying to, and I can't not. Right? That's boring, man. You got to move a little bit, all right? Use your face. Wake up. Come on. Got this. All right. Posture, presentation, they all play a part in amazing storytelling. So use your props, which is your body. All right. The clouds rolled in and filled the sky. Lightning crashed and thunder rolled. You know, you could just you're moving. You're moving. Don't be afraid to move in front of people, man. Own yourself. All right. Use your body. Don't say, I don't feel comfortable being expressive. Get your body out of your head and become your own puppet master. And say, my body can do that when I tell it to. Unless, there is a caveat to this. Unless it really can't. There's times I'm realizing, like, wow, I've been doing this a lot longer than I think I have because my body can't do some of the things I used to be able to do. There's a caveat. We need to put a disclaimer to this one. I don't want to be sued next Sunday. Do not attempt a backflip in front of 100 kids if you've never done it before, all right? I think I can. Whoo! Woo! Hello, 911. Don't hurt yourself. But then again, it's for the kids, so, I mean, whatever it takes, you know. I've had my share of pain to teach a lesson. Come on, take one for the team. You can do it. Oh, just kidding. So you know you've been a successful storyteller when you've given them a story to tell. When they go home and they say, "What did you learn in Sunday school?" Well, if you told them a story with your brain, they're going to say, "We learned about Daniel." But if you've given them a story to tell, they're not going to say, "We learned about Daniel." They're going to say, "Man, you should have saw Brother Danny. He was literally getting eaten alive." I don't know how you'd pull that one off, but that'd be quite a story for sure. But and then when it comes to our space, okay, God-given stage. If you're a storyteller, you require a stage. You have a God-given stage. It's called your space. This is very new agey, so pardon me. Wherever you go, you are there. Whoa. Wow. Think of this. There will always be a space in which we exist. Whoa. It's been a long day, y'all. What is that? That is our God-given stage. Wherever you are, it's your stage. Okay? You could be in a mall. That's your stage. I'm not even talking about storytelling. It could be just being a witness. It could just be being a minister. Everywhere you go, you're waiting for a pulpit. Well, everywhere you go, that's your stage. Right? There's people everywhere. And so when it's time to tell a story, we don't have to say, well, got to go to Sunday school. I'm not in my environment. I don't feel comfortable. I want you to be able to sit at that campfire and say, I don't need a stage. I've been given a space to exist. And I'm not dependent on outside resources to be a good storyteller. I have a space. That's all I need. I have a prop closet. That's all I need. I own a voice. That's all I need. I got the facts and figures squared away in my head. That's all I need. I've got a heart, expression, and emotion to share. That's all I need. All right? And so when telling the story, creative storytelling utilizes the space around them. You can put me in an empty room. I'm afraid to break this. You can put me in an empty room. Guess what? That's still a stage. You got walls. You could be slapping walls. Get me out of here! You can have a floor. Somebody's sad. Oh, fall to your knees. Slap the floor. Why? Why? You got all types of stuff. You got a chair. You got a trash can. You've got other kids. Man, I can't tell you how many kids' hair I've messed up over the years telling stories. Right? You have a space to use. You could use a desk, whatever. So let me help you with this, because sometimes we're very black and white people as adults. We have a hard time using our imagination. We kind of outgrow that part of us. Actually, I don't believe that's true. I think that we become more jaded as adults, and we learn to apply our imagination in harmful ways. So as we get older, we don't lose our imagination, but we gain what? Anxiety. Come on now. We gain fear of not being able to pay the bills or perform for our loved ones or whatever it may be. Stress. Worry. Guess what worry is? It's just a use of your imagination. That's what anxiety is. It's just a misplaced use of your imagination. So we didn't outgrow it, we just misallocate it. As kids, we don't have any pressure, we don't have any bills, we're just we have an imagination, and we could think of imaginary friends, we could think of long drawn out adventures. It's a woohoo part of life. But as we get older, we kind of disassociate from some of that usefulness of imagination. But I want to help somebody. Kids can see what's not there. And they can hear things that aren't there. You know why? Because they have an imagination. And so we need to become as a child when we're storytelling. Let's not be afraid to act as if. Use your imagination. If you use your imagination, they'll use theirs. You don't need the actual image of Nebuchadnezzar. Okay? But you could say, wow, look at how big that thing is. That thing's got to be like an entire 5 stories tall. I can't believe this. You point their attention to places that aren't there. Point their attention to sounds that aren't there. They'll use their imagination. You start painting a picture and they'll see it. But you have to use your imagination. You got it? Cool. All right, let's go. We're going to give an example. How much time do I got? I don't, do I? Boo! Okay. Oh my word, I just got so much to say. Okay. I was going to do an example and make somebody else do an example, but we don't have time for that. Boo. All right, let's just say Paul's shipwreck, right? Paul, you can have a certain voice and certain demeanor. You don't even need a set or costume or anything. You say, you should not leave on this voyage. The captain, I'm the captain and I'll do what I want. I'll do what I say. You'll do what I say. Everyone will do what I say. I'll say what I say and you'll do what I say. And then you got the crewsman in the middle of the storm. Oh my goodness, we're all going to die! Stop throwing everything overboard, we're all going to die! Paul's, no, we're not going to die. Everyone calm down, calm down. No one's going to die. You just stay on the ship, stick with me, and you're going to make it all right. The angel told me. You know, you can change your voices. I can't do that. Yes, you can. You just got to get out of your head. You got to get out of your head, all right? Use your body. Throw yourself on the floor if you have to. All right, effective ministry of storytelling. I'm going to go through these very quickly because we have to get over to the sanctuary. For anybody that wants to be a part of the kids' church service, we're going to be going through it together. Build an entire kids' church service from start to finish over in the main sanctuary and go through a quick practice run of that. If you want to be a part of puppets, a skit, help with the worship songs, action songs, different things like that, you're welcome to go over there. Object lessons, whatever, you can be a part of it. All right. Number 1, the effective ministry of storytelling means that you have to be able to captivate the audience. And what you want is voluntary servitude, not enslavement. When I say captivate the audience, I mean voluntary servitude, not enslavement. All right? What does that mean? That means you can enslave them and say, I'm the teacher, I'm speaking, and you be quiet and listen. That's enslavement. Or you could compel them. You could captivate their attention voluntarily because you're interesting and you're creative and you're engaging. All right? So share a compelling story. If you cannot capture and keep their attention, you risk the possibility of losing the effectiveness of the ministry of the story. So what does that mean? That means we have to make it real. All right? When storytelling, be compelling. You can even read in a compelling way if you're reading something. You can command their attention and discipline them into submission, all right? Or you can be so engaging that they're willing to give you their attention willingly, all right? I already said this. There's a fine line between a long-winded sermon and a captive audience, all right? So synonymous with compelling is gripping, hypnotic, thrilling, fascinating, irresistible, engrossing, enthralling. Obviously, use adjectives. If you're boring, the rest of the story is pointless because they're not listening. All right? So captivate the audience. 2, reveal the hearers through the characters. So what does that mean? That means let the word or the story be a mirror to the audience. Use the characters as examples to them. Make it relatable. All right? Man, how would you feel if your brothers threw you in a pit and wanted to kill you and sell you off? How would that make you feel? Man, going back telling your dad that you died and sold you off to slaves. Man, you're making it relatable, right? And so storytelling as a ministry does not just reveal characters, but it reveals the character of the hearers. So emphasize the struggles, the thoughts, the life of the characters that the audience can understand. Find common ground. David was a young boy. He was an outcast of his brothers. You could talk about common ground of other things, loneliness, fear, shame. Emotions can make character situations relatable. And one thing I love to make things relatable in stories is asking questions, asking the kids questions. Mid-story, you ask them questions, draw them in. All right, number 3, instruct from the story. When storytelling, teach. So not just when storytelling, be compelling, but when storytelling, teach. We can learn what to do or not to do if we intentionally apply the lesson personally. Make it practical, all right? So there's a lesson in the story somewhere. You just got to pull it out, make it practical. Tell them what to do or not to do from the story. The fourth thing, the final thing, is lead the hearers to experience God. When you could tell a great story, we could all greatly tell a great story, but we've ministered effectively when we could point them to Jesus and lead them to have an encounter with God for themselves at the end of the story. So that's where the ministry where storytelling becomes a ministry, is make it impactful. All right, don't just make it real. Don't just make it relatable. Don't make it practical. Make it impactful. At the end of a story, I love watching tears fall down a kid's face at the end of a story. I love altar calls that are led straight. We don't even have to have a message because the story was enough to pull them and make an impact. Your storytelling this Sunday may be what makes a child fall in love with the Word of God. So let's not be afraid to tell a story. Let's be creative. Let's not be boring. Let's get out of our head, utilize the gifts that God's given us, and go be exciting people in our stories. God bless you. You're dismissed in Jesus' name.
If he's not able to, just have his backup in case something happens with that.
And then there was 2 other ones that I was kind of like waffling between.
Okay.
One was unashamed by Mary Yes.
Okay.
And the other one is Jesus, you're all I